Welcome back, dear friends. How exciting. Lots of exciting things to be getting on with. One of which isn't shaving. I had the misfortune to actually see myself in a mirror this morning, something I try to avoid doing at all costs, and discovered I am fairly hirsute currently, but shaving is boring, getting on with steampunk machines is exciting. And finally, after waiting 2 weeks for these, the 20mm wooden balls arrived for the valve, the air pump valve, and I was going to run out of super glue. Hideous. And this morning 10 of these have arrived that I ordered. I expected to wait longer. Fantastic. Can't risk running out of that. And I've remade another one of these. So now I've got 2 of these. This one started out like this one, and then if you remember, if you've seen the last video, it wasn't powerful enough, the motor wasn't, to have that much sort of ratio, pulley ratio. That was stupid. Why didn't I keep the original? So now I've made a new one of the original, because I was going to fix this one, but it's a right old shambles. So we're going to give that a go first of all. So, first job, no it isn't, it's this one. Get the new super improved original version, get the chains glued in and fix it on there. I'll get back, and hopefully with the reduced gear pulley ratio, the little stepper motor in here, if you remember trying to use, will be powerful enough to raise and lower the bellows. I won't go as far, but that doesn't matter. I'll get back to you when you can see it working. Hopefully, fingers crossed. It looks pretty, doesn't it? I do like ball chain. It's so useful. It's so strong. It's amazing. So I'll put the super glue in the little slots I made, and they're gluing. Whilst that's gluing, I'm going to finally get the balls in this. I'm going to have to unscrew all these screws off the front and replace the one with an hole in it with one of the new ones. Then we'll see whether it works as a valve. Well, that's just typical, isn't it? You wait a week and you get these things, they're rubbish. That's not round. It's got a huge great sanded bit down one side. In fact, none of them are round and none of them are 20mm, so they won't actually seat in the original hole I made with that little ball covered in sand. That is so annoying. So what I'm going to have to do, and I should have just done this in the first place, get some wood filler, fill in the holes and just sand the top and bottom. I'm sure with my newfound joy of hand-eye coordination and complete absence of CAM, that I can do this. Isn't hand-eye coordination absolutely incredible? I'm really pleased because they are now round. There's a little bit of filler on each end. Anyway, let's stop it. It's sidetracked about how amazing the human body is. Let's get this valve thing together. Yes. These things are sent to try us. I've just got it all assembled beautifully, and then realised after I'd put super glue around here to glue it onto the end of the pipe, obviously the wooden ball had got stuck. Thankfully, however, swift bit of unscrewing of bits and pieces that I'd all just glued together, hoping for the last time to have to glue it together, and I've got that free, and I freed the ball, thankfully. I will reconsider how I'm going to reassemble this without too much glue. That's not too bad. Obviously, having the same sized pulley on this side as down to the bottom, if you've watched the previous video, you'll know that that was to enable this to be pulled much higher, its whole thing having a smaller one at the top, I meant to say back to front. So I made it bigger, which means it needs less power from the motor. Also put a couple of lead weights just as an experiment, which really does help, and adjusted the bellows slightly so it's higher up, and that's turning perfectly. I'm quite happy with that. Part of me says no, it needs to go right down to the bottom, right up, but I went ahead and made a beautiful turned brass counterweight, and it worked. But having taken the dog for a walk, I just thought I want these bellows to move further, so I've now reinstating a slightly larger pulley here. I'm hoping the small motor will work with it. I don't know, but you know when something just isn't right. It was okay, it was moving, but being a perfectionist, I just can't let it go. I'll get that joined up and installed and see whether it does work. I was thinking, let's finally sort out how we can get a driver for this little stepper motor that's going to do the bellows. I don't want to waste 4 pins of the Arduino Mega because it's too busy and it's a waste of 4 pins. I've been looking up things. I suddenly thought, Cantona, look! I've had a couple of these Arduino Micros floating around for ages. I tried using them for one of the clocks ages ago, and I kept forgetting to set it to the right type. I kept having it set on Uno rather than Micro, and they just stopped working. I couldn't upload anything. I spent ages, hours searching online for help, and I gave up in it, and I've been sitting in the drawer ever since. And I just thought, let's try one. And I think they've improved the Arduino IDE, because this time I did it a couple of times and pressed reset, because apparently when you first upload to it, it sees it as one USB connection device, and then as it uploads, it needs to see it as something else. Anywho, it's my limited understanding, but it's worked. I used it with the most simple example that comes with the Arduino IDE, which is Blink. And it's blinking. I just wanted to check that I could upload. I'm absolutely thrilled, because this can just sit in there and run the motor and possibly other things at some point. How fantastic. It's so lovely that the Arduino IDE comes with such simple things. I remember starting when I first got an Arduino a few years ago, and I was absolutely thrilled. Really simple little sketch, and it's got tons of these example ones, and if you're ever thinking about trying to get involved in it, do. It is brilliant. The fact that the simplest thing that you can plug your Arduino in and upload this to, and it flashes the LED on and off, it brings such joy. I remember being so excited that it would do that, and I could connect it to a computer, and it just opened the floodgates. So exciting. This is what I'm talking about. How exciting. That's the great thing about Arduinos. Now that is programmed, I can unplug it from the computer and go and connect it up somewhere else, and it will remember the program. That's fabulous. I've just written a piece of code, added it to the loop on the Mega, just to see whether the Arduino Micro will work and run that stepper motor. Look, dear friends, it's working. It's speeding up. I've just set it for a 5-second delay between starting and stopping. And it keeps going to keep it simple as always. And then look, it stops. That is fantastic. And it's lovely. What a joy to install this. Screwing that in there, screwing that down there so I can plug the motor into it. Oh, it's a joy. And then wiring it all up with the grounds and the +5s and the +5 that supplies the motors. And then the pink wire coming over to join onto number 11, digital out 11 on the Mega. Oh, I can't tell you how thrilled I am. It's so joyful. Excellent. As it's all in bits, I'll take the front off. I can now, having painted because a lot of cack appeared on it, I can now put that pulley support and the pulley itself onto the front panel. Let's get that done. That's fantastic. I'm very pleased with that. Look, turny things, and it's so quiet as well. That's lovely. The ball chain looks gorgeous. I'm very pleased with that. Very pleased indeed. All the lovely pulleys, more turning. It's lovely to have sort of elements of movement going on in the background, which is great. Lovely. So having accomplished that, the next really exciting thing that I've been looking forward to for ages is the auto-tuning system. Yay! First thing I'm going to do, however, because I've got all the electronics sorted out, first thing I'm going to do is to make that little window to go on here so you can see the LEDs flickering to make sure that as the motors turn to tune, they are actually working properly. Let's get on and do that now, dear friends. up with this idea? I cannot remember. But now I've got to try and work out how to assemble it and then fix it in there, and we'll give it a go. So that's fixed on. That looks lovely. And that needs to fix on here. And I've just remembered, of course, I need to connect up these two stepper motors and make sure there's nothing in front of the LEDs. I was about to put it together and then remembered the next part of the project, which is the auto tuning. That's auto tuning. It needs some way to be able to hear what is going on. I'm going to use this. Lots of very kind people in the comments have suggested all sorts of ways, improvements or alternatives. But while I sort out the software, I know that this works, this microphone, because it's an electret microphone and an amplifier all on one 5-volt board, so then the signal is amplified sufficiently to go through a normal wire off to the Mega. In fact, with Paul Soffrigen's fabulous library, pin number 49. So I'll get that soldered up and then get it all together. I don't know how I'm going to end up detecting the frequencies of the tuning strings. There are so many opportunities and possibilities, but you're absolutely right. Thank you for all the comments again. Having something else over here, like a horn or something, I mean, you can barely see the ukulele as it is, so having something else, not that. I don't want to put this inside the ukulele body, because that just seems wrong in certain ways. Someone suggested a piezoelectric tuning, well, sensor that could fit onto here like they have in modern electronic tuners. Don't know about that, because I always like to try and use technology that the Victrons would have had, well, at least in the visual parts of it, the user interfaces, shall we call it. I've even considered, one of my wilder moments whilst walking the dog, having a little mirror on here and having a beam of light that would be reflected and vibrate accordingly, being picked up by some sort of set. Anyway, absolutely ridiculous. Each one of these things is in effect a project in its own right, and I'm bringing them all together, so I've got to learn when to say no. Anyway, I'll get this wired up and then we'll see what this can do. This is the readout from the frequency thing. Now if I pluck a string, that makes perfect sense. Now this is with the 12 volts on. You can hear the motors, the big stepper motors, sizzling. That has got to be interference. Who would have thought building an auto-tuning ukulele playing machine would be so difficult? Now, these 4 drivers that drive the 12 volt stepper motors, zoink, have an enable pin. And I've just looked it up on the website, and sure enough, if you make the enable pin go high, it switches off all the outputs to the motors. Now I was just about, it's not time yet, let me sort out auto-tuning. Because the thing is, of course, that I only need the tuning to work when it doesn't need any stepper motors. I need to start it up, get the stepper motors to move the frets up to the top so it says, oh, your fingers are off all the strings, switch all the stepper motors off, then do all the tuning process, then the stepper motors can come back on. So it's one or the other, thankfully, so have a think about that. Yes. Oh, the joy, dear friends, the bliss. I cannot tell you. I have lost quite a lot of my hair trying to sort out this wretched tuning thing. What a great idea. Add automatic tuning to your ukulele machine. Simple as that. Got the microphone, everything is lovely, what a joy. But no, of course not. To cut a very, very long story short, because I'm thrilled, I've finally got it working, I'm using, in fact, I'll show you, give me a moment. Sitting in here, freezing my knackers off, because obviously we can't afford to have the heating on with the energy companies making huge amounts of profit and blaming other people for it. So anyway, what I did, here we are, look, oops, there's the microphone. And I was having all sorts of problems trying to get this to give some sort of sensible answer. I was comparing it with the online tuning thing so I could get a proper accurate results, and typically the online tuner was saying 415 Hertz, The Arduino was saying 830. Anyway, I think I mentioned that. I'm losing the plot here. What I ended up doing was making this circuit, suggested by Paul Suffragan, who wrote the library, the frequency library, a low pass filter and a couple of Schmitt triggers which will turn an analog voltage going up and down like a sine wave into a square wave. So I built that in the end, and that seemed to help. I've got the motors and the stepper motor drivers and everything else ready to go to do the auto tuning. All I need is to read a frequency and then say, I want it to be, for example, A, which is 392 Hertz. I want it to be that. If it's higher than that, turn the motor one way. If it's lower than that, turn it the other way, and then keep checking until it's practically spot on. I can now do that. I can't wait. Well, I'm trying to tell you. I will stop telling you now. I'll get on with it and then get back to you. Oh, I must just show you it working though. Hang on. Yes. Final 398 averages out all these. Fantastic. Let's just try it on the other one. Yes. Brilliant. Oh, what a joy. And remember, there are lots of exciting kits and other inventions that make the perfect Christmas present available at my Etsy shop. I've never sent as many as I'm sending today. I think there's 11 there. That's so exciting. And now it should keep having to tune back up. So the flickering light should be going to the right. And should keep going to the right, which they are so far. It did it. I realised I had to stop talking because obviously my voice was affecting it all. It did it just a couple more times. I'm so pleased, and it kept going in the right direction. I had to add that +2, -2 thing because it kept going too high, too low, too high, too low. And when I solved that plucking problem just by putting 2 plucking commands one after the other, so it actually plucks twice but always ends up going in the same direction. Who would have thought? So that is thrilling. Now, filled with the joys of spring, I think I'm going to have a go at getting, what's the next string called? It's the E string. It's not the G string, that's the E string. I'll have a look and see how I get on with that. There we are. It got there in 9 steps. Still a bit strange over here with different frequencies, but it did get there, and I'm really pleased. That's amazing. We're within 9 steps. Fantastic. The tuning system is working. It's not as good and reliable as I'd like it to be. But then when I was using the online one, that was upping and downing, and it's fine when you've got a human brain to analyse it and think, oh, well, that's obviously wrong. I know I spent some time the other night looking at statistics and medians and how to spot errant figures and results. But there's not really any way of doing it, I don't think, with this. So if anyone has got any ideas to help me with this tuning, I'll be ever so grateful. Either some sort of filtering, improved filtering system, so that it ignores other stuff and just focuses on the actual frequency, or some other very clever bit of software. I don't know. I'd be very grateful for any contributions. I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks very much for watching. Hope to see you next time. Remember, if you like this sort of thing, please remember to click subscribe and like and things on YouTube. Always happy to answer any questions, any queries in the comments. Hope to see you next time. What are the jobs next time? I'll finish getting all 4 tuning things done and then get it to actually play some music. Yay! Lovely, thank you.